Hi, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Today we're talking about goals. And goals are really an interesting concept because we set them all the time. We have personal goals and business goals. We might have family goals, health goals. We really have goals about everything. But when we talk about business goals, they have a very specific purpose. They are here in our business to really activate our purpose, our mission, our vision, and our values. So the exercises that we've already worked on here in the Business Brilliance Blueprint course, we really have to see that they are all leading up to creating a set of goals that take us where we want to go. So what is that success, right, that we have earlier defined? What does future me want? All of those bits of information come together in our purpose, values, vision, and mission statement, and we enact a set of goals to bring us on the journey towards what we say we want. And that's why setting goals is really critical, because we can set goals arbitrarily. We could just pull goals out of the sky and try to meet them, and either we don't end up meeting them at all, or we really suffer on our way to meet them, right? We really hate it and we're really unhappy and we're really struggling and we're in winter a lot because we didn't buy into why the goal mattered. The goal has to matter. It always needs to matter. Every goal needs to matter, or you're not going to want to meet it. Or if you do meet it, it's going to cost you something, either in your time, in your peace, in your relationships. It'll cost something. So our goals determine what we set as priorities in our business, right? What we want to reach is the goal. And that then determines what we do every day in our business to reach that goal, right? To meet that milestone. It all goes on that same path. So planning a goal in the proper way is the single best strategy to lower your stress, because it's all spelled out for you, but also to actually meet it. So when you set a goal, some people just say, I want to meet this revenue goal or this customer reach goal, or I want to produce, a Facebook Live video every day for 30 days. Excellent. Why? Why does that matter, right? Because if we think about Pareto's principle, which is 20% of your clients generate 80% of your work, or 20% of your advertising budget brings in 80% of your return. It's the 80-20 principle, that 20% of yourself, your investments, reap 80% of your benefits. So if we think about that, what 20% of your business brings in 80% of the results? We want to set goals there, right? If you set goals in the 80% of your work that brings in 20% of your income or your reach or whatever other metrics you've set, you are working a lot for a very small return. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes we do work with charities or with nonprofits or as a volunteer, and that's totally fine. But when you're talking about setting business goals to grow your business time freedom, to grow your revenue, it really needs to be a very clear goal to return the investment that you're making. So if we think about your business as a whole, what 20% of your effort brings in 80% of your results? Right? If your 20% of effort comes from your videos, by all means, do videos. But if it comes from speaking, or if it comes from being at a farmer's market and demonstrating your product or allowing people to taste your jam, that's where you need to focus your time, right? So you have to understand your business in such a way that you can look at it during your CEO time, for example, and say, where is my return? What investments do I make in the 20% scope that bring me back the biggest bang for my buck? We want to talk about goals because when you set goals, you need to also be clear if it is a short-term goal or a long-term goal, because they function differently in your business. I could have a goal this week to do 3 things. I could reach out to 3 prospective clients and send out my speaker reel, for example. But that may or may not lead to anything, right? So that goal is a little bit smaller and it's a little bit not necessarily leading to a big path. But if my quarterly goal is to secure 5 speaking contracts, then I will be working every week to be working towards that goal. And I wouldn't just be throwing spaghetti on a wall and see what sticks. There's a process, right? Setting a goal is a process, and you can learn it. If you have not learned this before, please, it's totally fine. You can do this. The first thing we want to do, of course, is do a mind map. We want to do a brain dump, which is always what I recommend no matter what we're working on together. In this case, today we're working on goals. But anytime you start anything, you need a brain dump. You need to write down everything you can think of in this space. So on this slide, we're going to brain dump all your business goals, right? All your goals for your business. Write them all down. And then select one. Just one, because we're going to go through this process and I want you to know what the process feels like so that you can actually then go and take some of your bigger goals and do this on your own. Once you have your big goal, I want you to start to think, what obstacles might you foresee? So for example, if you want to open up a retail store to sell your jam, for example, an obstacle you might foresee is, I don't have the money to rent a space. Or there are no retail spaces in my town or my city. So that's an obstacle. Once you can identify some of your foreseeable obstacles, try to then realize, what are some resources that I have in my back pocket that can help me overcome that obstacle, right? So if there's no retail space in your town, what about the next towns? Or is there a place that sells breads and cheeses and you can rent a table in their store? So you're not actually renting a whole store, you're renting, 10 square feet, and you set up a table and a booth and a backdrop, and that's where you sell your jam, right? So once you have the foreseeable obstacles, you can then decide, how could I solve this? Now, at this point, I always hear, what if I don't know what my obstacles are? Of course, right? There are many times we have been blindsided by things we had never anticipated coming our way. It happens all the time. It's part of business and it's part of life. But if you know what you know, then you go back to what you know, right? You are planted firmly. You know your anchors. You know your cast, right? You know your core values. You know your purpose, your mission, your vision, and your values for your company. You are anchored in the very best that it is. So when something unexpected comes, you ground yourself in what you know and you start from there. Now, when we have a goal, we need to then go through the process of reaching the goal. And it's a multi-step process, but it's not very frightening. The first thing I want to identify before we get there is I want to talk a minute about SMART goals, because we may know about SMART goals, or maybe we heard about it once upon a time. SMART goals really are still the gold standard for how you recognize the goal setting parameters that you make. So for example, if you are setting a goal that says, I want to make $1,000 a month, and you put it out to the universe and you hope that it comes true, it most certainly won't, right? I mean, we need to take inspired action to make anything happen in that way. So when we create a SMART goal, we say, I want to make $1,000 a month, and it needs to be fulfilling some of these characteristics. So it needs to be specific, right? How are you going to make the $1,000 a month? Who is involved in that? What do I need to do to earn that money? Where will my business transactions take place? It needs to be measurable. So when you're tracking it, if you sell a book for $10 and your goal is to make $1,000, that's very easy to track, right? You know exactly how many books you need to sell to make $1,000. And how will you know when you reach it? How many times will you have to do your business to know that you've made that money? Is it achievable? At this time, in this day and age, if your business was to do, facials and do people's nails and things like that, it is not achievable because right now as I'm filming this, we are in lockdown, in quarantine, in the COVID-19 pandemic, the global pandemic. So there is no hand-to-hand, face-to-face, fingers-to-fingers businesses happening right now. So it's not achievable. So if you said, I want to give 10 facials in the next month, that's not achievable, right? You are going to have to pivot your business to make money in a different way. Doing your business the way you always had done it is not going to get you there in this situation because it's not realistic in this day and age, right here, right now, to do that business, right? So you wouldn't be able to achieve your goal. You'd have to modify it. Is your goal relevant? First of all, is it worthwhile to you? And is it worthwhile to the market? Does your market actually want what you're selling? There are plenty of amazing people running beautifully lovely businesses, but no one is ready to buy the solution. Because maybe it's not that big of a deal, or maybe there's a mismatch in messaging or marketing or pricing or something else. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad idea, but is it relevant to you and your marketplace? And is it timely? So when you set a goal, it's important to have an end date and milestones along the way. Because if you say, I want to make $1,000 whenever, when will you know when you ever get there? What if it takes you 15 years to make your $1,000? That is a really hard goal to stay connected to and to stay motivated to reach because it just goes on and on and on and on, right? You want something timely. You want something short and something manageable and something that you can stay connected to even as the days go on. Because there will be days and you just think, oh, I definitely don't want to do this today. But oh my goodness, my goal, my end date is in 6 days. I can do this. I can dig deep. I can fortify my resources and make it 6 more days. Of course I can. So this is how you create a SMART goal. And now I want to talk to you about where the SMART goals fit in the bigger process. And this is in your workbook, so please don't worry. But when you have your goal, there is a list, and I'm going to read out this list so we're all on the same page about what it takes to create a business goal. The first thing you do once you've found your business goal, because remember you brainstormed all the business goals that you had and we picked one. The first thing we're going to do after we've brainstormed all ideas is to sort them into categories. And so that can be categories such as, finance goals, customer goals, referral goals. You can design whatever categories you want that fits your business. And then you want to rank the ideas in each category. So if you have a social media goal to, put up 10 posts on 3 platforms, rank the best ones first. So what would give you the biggest bang for your buck? If that's doing a live video to get more reach, or to buy advertising, or to put up a graphic, or to run a contest, or to do a giveaway, whatever's on your list, try to rank them as the best ideas on top and the lesser best ideas on the bottom so that you really go for the gold right off the top. Now select one goal. From all your categories, let's just take one. And we're going to brainstorm our action list for that one goal. We're going to order our actions on our goal sheet. Just like we did in the first one, we're going to order our actions. So what are all the things that we know we need to do to reach the goal? When we can do that, it's much easier for us to say, oh, okay, I know where some obstacles are definitely going to pop up. There will be an obstacle at this point because I already know I don't have a website. So me launching a campaign to collect people's email addresses on my website, I already foresee a problem because I don't have a website, right? So that's a foreseeable problem. And then you can do the exercise we just did, which was how do we overcome that obstacle? We know it's coming. How do we overcome it? Either we collect information and put people in a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group or a social media group, or we have to come up with a different way. Maybe we do it through text messaging, or maybe you put up a very simple web page that only collects addresses, right? And it's not the full website experience. But once it's the foreseeable block, you can figure out, okay, what resources do I have and what do I want to solve to overcome this obstacle? Then you're going to list all your resources, because of course you may know some foreseeable blocks, but there may be some obstacles you didn't see coming. So this is a good time just to do a little bit of a cast, but also like, who are the people in this space that can help you? Who are the experts that you know you can count on? Who are the friends that might have these skills or have done this before? Who are the experts that sell books or courses or products or checklists that help you along this journey? Those are your resources. Now, thinking about your goal, I want you to break it down into milestones, right? So your goal is probably not something you can do today. It might be something you can do in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 quarter, but it's important to break it down so that you have measurable steps along the way, but also opportunities to double check that you're still on track, you've done all the things you need to do to reach your goal, and you've really tapped into your resources. Once you've selected your milestones, you can set a timeline. So you might think, oh my goodness, this, 30 days is a perfect time to launch this, but when you look at the calendar, 30 days falls around Thanksgiving, or it falls around another big celebration where most of the people in your market would not be paying attention, right? So if you are launching a product into a parent group and it has nothing to do with graduation, your business has nothing to do with graduation, launching something in the middle of June is not a great idea, because the parents are busy with their graduating kids and report cards and summer camps, and they're very busy trying to get all the things organized, right? So if you're launching something for parents, you need to check the calendar and know your timelines need to fit in the bigger scheme of what your market is dealing with at this time. Now is the time that we make it SMART. So if you have not already made your goals SMART, you would go through and make sure it's specific and measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. And then you start to execute on the plan. Once you start executing, we can start tracking and analyzing the results. So if we say we are going to do a video every day and it's day 4 and you've only done 1 video because on day 2 your son was sick, on day 3 you had to bring your car in to get changed, the oil change, and day 4 you slept in, then we need to talk about your goals, because you haven't been able to maintain the commitment to reach them. So I think you need a different goal. Maybe it isn't a video, maybe you put up a single post and you schedule it beforehand so you're not doing it at 7 a.m. Right? So once you can track and analyze, you can course correct. If you're getting back data and it is not helping you bring the return on investment that you think it should, you can course correct. You can change your messaging. You can do different graphics. You can have a different schedule. You can, instead of putting something out at 7 a.m., you can do something at 3 p.m., right? What if you sell bedtime stories? What if you're an author and your books are all bedtime stories? Maybe at 5 o'clock, it wouldn't be the best time because your parents, the parents you sell to, are very busy with their children. But at 9 o'clock, when these parents are like, oh my gosh, I'm so done with my day, you put up a post and say, let's make tomorrow's night bedtime a lot better. Here, download my story and read this to your child, and it will help them fall right to sleep. These parents will be all over that because they just spent 2 hours battling with their child in bed, right? So know your audience, know your people. And then the final step, of course, is celebrate when you reach that goal. So when you get to the point that you have reached your goal, you've gone through all of your steps, do take time to celebrate. Because if you are just like, okay, done, I'm moving on to the next thing, it really doesn't send a message to your brain that there's closure and that you've done good things and you want to do them again. Right? Your brain needs feedback. And if you don't provide the feedback, it will still stay in this stress, go, go, go mode. There is absolute closure in the celebration. So I want you to think about, what does it feel like for me to celebrate reaching this goal? What does that look like? If that means I get, an afternoon off to go paddleboarding, if I, have lunch with my children at a nice restaurant, if I have a picnic in the park, if I get to go, have my nails done when it's safe to do so, whatever celebrating is for you, honor your commitment, because you keeping a promise to yourself is absolutely worth celebrating. And we know that your clients are going to be so happy and so fulfilled that you met your goal, because that means they can then have the solution. So whatever you just created by having that goal will trickle out into the world, and you want to celebrate that. You created that. You created opportunity for other people to celebrate, and you created opportunity for other people to solve something that had been really stressing them out. That is definitely worth a celebration. So get to understanding your goals, breaking them down, and really go through this process, because setting goals should be an empowering and forward motion activity. If you are feeling stuck, if you are sliding into winter, if you are doing any of those things, you are not absolutely in the best place to be setting goals. So we might need to do a little bit of spring cleaning before we get back in and we start setting goals. Once you get really good at it, you can have mini goals, micro goals for different sections. So you can have a finance goal and a marketing goal and a sales goal, and all these kinds of goals in different pockets, which you would manage and check up on in your CEO time, right? With all of these moving parts, you need a time where you can look on your business as a whole and see how it's going. So best of luck setting goals, goals, goals. I know you're going to reach them now. Best of luck.